Thank you very much, directors of the program, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, Ms. Susan Shabangu, Minister of Arts and Culture, Mr. Nathi Mthethwa, Acting Premier of Gauteng, Mayatula Khoza, premiers and acting premiers who are with us here today, and your delegations, all ministers and deputy ministers, MECs who are with us here, veterans of the 1956 Women's March, and other senior citizens, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, and high commissioners, delegations from women organizations from various African countries present here today, the President of the ANC Women's League and leadership and members of all women's formations, heads of Chapter 9 institutions, women of South Africa, compatriots. Today, our country marks a historic milestone. On this day, 60 years ago, more than 20,000 brave women marched to the seat of government, the union buildings, to register their rejection of white supremacy and institutionalized racism. They marched to make it known to the apartheid regime, the country, and the world that they totally rejected past laws which restricted their movements and made them pariahs in the land of their birth. The apartheid legislation required African persons to carry a pass, a special identification document which curtailed their freedom of movement. And the J.G. Stradom regime sought to extend it to African women. The women came from every part of South Africa, from cities and towns, the reserves, and the villages. It was women from every racial group, African, white, Indian, colored. They were united in their purpose and dedication. They wanted the apartheid government and the then Prime Minister, J.G. Stradom, to feel their anger and their resolve against carrying of dompasses and against the degradation of African women. Women marched again today. They also came from all provinces, from villages and townships, towns and cities. They came to celebrate today the bravery of the women of 1956 who laid a firm foundation for the restoration of our birthright, freedom, and for the dignity of women. Sihlangene namhlanje ukugubha ubuqhawe bamakhosikazi amasha ngo-1956. Sigubha futhi ubuqhawe bamakhosikazi asezweni lakithi alwela inkululeko ngobuningi bawo, abhekana nobunzima nokuhlukunyezwa abacindezeli ngezikhathi zobandlululo. Sikhumbula nabo bonke omama abalahlekelwa izingane nezihlobo bebulawa abacindezeli, abadlula kobukhulu ubuhlungu nokuhlukunyezwa. Sikhumbula omame abasuswa emizini yabo ngenxa yemithetho yobandlululo, baba hondingazithebeni ezweni labo. Omama baseningizimu Afrika bangamaqhawe ngoba basukuma balwa nalezo zimo zencindezelo. The march was organized by the Federation of South African Women, FEDSO, a federation committed to challenging the idea that a woman's place is in the kitchen. They declared that the women's place is everywhere a woman chooses to be. The leaders of the 1956 Women's March were Ms. Sophia de Bruyn, who's with us today here, who is indeed one of those stalwarts. Ms. Lillian Ngoyi, Ms. Rahima Musa, and Ms. Helen Joseph. We are so happy and delighted to have Ms. Sophia de Bruyn and also 22 other veterans of the march today with us. Your presence fills us with great pride. We pay tribute to the stalwarts of our struggle. Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Dorothy Nyembe, Albertina Sisulu, Ruth Mompati, Ruth First, Bertha Kloa, and many others who participated at different levels of our struggle. We also pay tribute to women before 1956 who gave their lives to the liberation movement, often at a great personal cost, without any expectation of position or reward, such as our pioneer, Charlotte Maxeke. Indeed, O.R. Tambo put it so well when he said, and I quote, "We are together today in South Africa because of your struggles over decades, your resilience, and your defiance, because of the courage with which the women of South Africa responded so magnificently to the calls to resist apartheid made by the African National Congress. Unquote. The women filled the entire amphitheater outside the Union Building and declared to Straydom that wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo, uzokufa. This morning, we launched the Women's Living Memory, the Women's Living Monument at Lillian Ngoyi Square, a symbol of the bravery and patriotism of South African women, and a monument to their contribution to the liberation and democracy that we achieved. Their march was not in vain. We recognize many others who dared the apartheid state in 1956 and marched to the Union buildings, and also women in every part of the country who contributed in various ways to the freedom we are enjoying today. We also recognize women who have contributed to building this country: the factory workers, domestic workers, farm workers, those who work on our roads and every other sphere. It is because of their historic achievements that today government continues to work at improving the living conditions of households, including those headed by women. They wanted a better life. The extension of basic services such as water, sanitation, electricity, education, health, and other benefits, women and children. The struggle of women enabled the ushering in of freedom and democracy, so that these services can be extended to all. Many women still live in difficult conditions. Some communities are still waiting for water, electricity, sanitation, and housing. Women are still struggling as they travel long distances to fetch water. It is for this reason that work is continuing to improve the lives of our people each day. Government will not rest until decent basic services reach all our people. We know too that women are troubled by unemployment. Work continues to improve the economic situation in the country through working together by business, government, and labor. The economic situation is difficult for us and the world at large, but we will continue our efforts to improve the situation and create an environment in which the private sector can create jobs. The achievements of the women of 1956 have also translated to the opening up of the leadership space for women. There is a marked increase in the representation of women in parliament, government, the judiciary, and other key positions in the public sector. Some women are also now heading giant corporations in the private sector, although such more still needs to be done in many companies. More and more South African women are choosing a career in the tough underground environment of mining, including owning a mine, to list but a few achievements that have been made under our democratic government. Compatriots, we must never forget our achievements as a people. All South Africans, both male and females, of all races, voted as equals before the law for the first time in the historic general elections of 27 April 1994. Last week, on the 3rd of August, we voted again in the municipal elections, celebrating our democracy. Local government is the closest sphere to the people, and it is at this sphere that women are affected most regarding basic services. We congratulate all women who turned out to vote on the day, moving local government forward. As we begin working towards the next 60 years, we must take the transformation of our country forward. Black women suffered triple oppression in terms of race, gender, class, and other disadvantaging factors. Now, significant change is particularly noted in areas such as legal status, attitudes, women's involvement in decision-making, especially at the political level, in employment, education, ownership of homes and businesses, the justice system, and economic participation. Though in some areas the pace of change appears to be rather slow, hence the need to upscale our efforts. As you may recall, last year, on the 9th of August, we launched the status of women in the South African economy. Report which outlines progress made in 5 years, education, the labor market, access to land, property, and credit, changes in poverty and inequality, as well as unpaid work and contribution to the gross domestic product. We are investing in education more than before so that we can use this instrument to improve the lives of women. The education of women and girls is an apex priority for our country. The participation of women in the economy is also critical. The establishment of women, cooperatives, and small businesses is being prioritized by government, including providing support to women traders so that they can earn an income. One of the key instruments that government is employing to support women to start their businesses and cooperatives is development finance institutions. We urge the private sector, especially banks, to come to the party and provide loans to women, especially women in rural areas, as part of promoting the economic development and growth envisaged in the National Development Plan. Therefore, today, we set a new commitment to promote financial inclusion for all, especially for women and young people. We invite the private sector to work with us all the way towards this goal. I must also underline our happiness to see the Women's League in particular involving young women to the activities of the country as part of the efforts to build a new South Africa and indeed to complete the freedom and equality that is needed in our country. That gives us a hope that the future of our country is bright. Amakhosikazi adinga imisebenzi, adinga usizo lukahulumeni ukuze avule amabhizinisi amancane kanye nezinye izindlela zokuziphilisa. Simemeza osomabhizinisi ikakhulukazi amabhange ukuthi avule iminyango abasize omama, kungabi uhulumeni kuphela oletha usizo. Sisebenzisana nosomabhizinisi nezinhlangano zabasebenzi ukwenza isimo somnotho sibe ngconywana. Akulula neze ngoba lenkinga ibhekene nomhlaba wonke yokuxega komnotho. Sizoqhubeka sizame ngoba impilo yabantu kufanele ibe ngcono noma kanjani. Siyabahalalisela omama baseNingizimu Afrika abangamaqhawe aziwayo. Siyababonga ngeqhaza abalibambile ngesikhathi silwela inkululeko kanye neqhaza abalibambile namhlanje ekuthuthukiseni nasekwakheni kabusha izwe lakithi. Omama basezweni lakithi bakhuthele, banesibindi, bayalithanda izwe labo. ingakho nje beqhubeka nokusebenza kanzima besebenzela izingane zabo nemindeni yabo. Sithi malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Masiqhubeke sisebenze kanye kanye sakhe izwe lethu, senze impilo ibe ngcono kubantu bonke ezweni lakithi, ikakhulukazi omama. Let us continue to work together to build our beautiful country so that every South African, especially girl children and women, can have a brighter future. Let the women unite in moving South Africa forward. I must also thank today the provinces who have sent their premiers here and acting premiers to make a declaration and commitment that they are going to do all they can to ensure that in the work that we do in the provinces, we promote our women. We give our women an opportunity to participate. Well done, provinces. As we have heard, this day to us is a historic day. It's a day our mothers took action, a big action, which brought change in the participation of women in the struggle. Thank you for indeed taking this day to a higher level as a historic landmark of our march to freedom. Siyanbonga bomama, riyalebuha. Nikhule njalo nibe ngangeyintaba. Sibonga isibindi senu nobuqhawe benu. Yini enatshena indoda eyayiphethe ngalesa sikhathi ukuthi mayithinta abafazi sithinta imbokodo izokufa. Nangempela yafa indoda ngoba yayisithinta abafazi. Alibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Alibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Wathinta abafazi uzokufa. Finish. Siyabonga. Nikhule njalo bomama namadodakazi enu nomakoti konke nazi ukuthi izwe limngani. Ngaphandle kwenu ngeke libe khona. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Mr. President.